just want to do a test run to share my story on how I became a Christian. I know that there's a lot of people, through someone talking with them about Jesus, and some grew up in the lifestyle and that's why they're Christian, but I kind of, I was brought up to be Christian, but like a lot of people, I kind of just like did my own version of it. But I'm just gonna get into the story. I'm expedited a little bit because just because. Where do I start? Well, okay. Well, most of my life I was like considered like a lame, I was like really to myself, really antisocial because of some other things I went through early in my life. I won't bother to get into the details of that right now, but say about my early 20s, I started coming into my own. I started coming out of that, and I started dating more, and it was like finally where it's like kind of like doing some of the things that I always wanted to do, like have sex with different girls and things like that. And it was like I was in college, I was doing really well in college, things were going good, even though on the inside I felt like it was like something was missing. I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was because I wasn't meeting the right women, or I didn't have enough women. So it was like I kept like increasing. Now everybody look, my wife, she laughed because of how I was. She was thinking like, no, you could be like that. I was just like, man, like people could never really understand. Only you can really know what it is that you went through. Like other people, you tell them, they really can't grasp it. But me, I knew I was different in that area. I was, but I'm not even gonna get into that. But yeah, I just thought that I needed more women. But I had these rules I set up that I thought would appease God, that I could basically negotiate with God. Say I'm kind of good, so he couldn't send me to hell. If there was a God, he couldn't send me to hell. And if there's not a God, then I still did some of the things I want. So I kind of like walked the middle road where I didn't get into like a lot of drugs and drinking, because I thought, me being good, and and I helped a lot of people. I mean, I went over above for people. People always like, you were a good person. That's what someone thought when I became a Christian, like, you were a good person. No, I wasn't a good person. I basically played the odds. That's what I did. I didn't want to be foolish and just do whatever I wanted. So like I avoided things like threesomes, like having things like that. Even though they were presented to me, I was like, no, that's going too far. God wouldn't like that. Because I read some of the Bible. I didn't didn't really know the Bible, but I knew that was, because talking with people, that was something that he wouldn't like. So I kind of avoided that area, and I thought that was enough. And then two, if one of the rules was, if a girl if I started talking to a girl, if she started talking about God at all, it was a category I automatically put her in, because I knew me, and I knew that I didn't want to sleep with them and then like, I'm not feeling them, and then dump them. And it was like, and if it was somebody belonging to God, so it was like, again, it was like, no, I'm not gonna mess around with you. We could be friends. I'll kick it with you. We could talk, but I'm not going there with you. So it was during the process, it was one girl I ended up talking to, and sure enough, she started talking about God, and I started talking with her. But again, she didn't know it, but it's this category that I put her in, and it was like that's as far as it was going. It was like, that was just it. It was like we could talk, we could be friends and joke around, but I'm not even gonna make no move or even put myself in a situation where something could happen. So, talking with her, she was a real pushy person, like, where you couldn't say no, you couldn't say when she wanted something, she would nag you. And like me, I wasn't a very dominant person then, and like now I'm much more forceful in my character, but then I wasn't. So it was kind of like, in some ways, I could be pushed over, and so it was like, because I really hated hurting people's feelings. I did. So it was like, it was like certain things I tiptoed around. So when people, I was more like a passive aggressive, I'll say that. So when she started going, I didn't know, she told me she hadn't been going to church, but because we started talking about God and stuff like that through our conversation, she started going back to church. And my screen keeps squaring my face. It just threw me off. Anyway, she started going back to church. When she started going back, she started asking me to come to church, and I wasn't really feeling church. I didn't want to go to church at all. I mean, I thought the way I was doing it was good enough, and there was no way God could send me to hell because I was a good person. So, from that, she just kept, nagging me and nagging me. I mean, and before this, like I said, when I say that I thought I knew enough, it was to the point that when I would see people out witnessing in the street, like, I would see them stopping people to minister, even if I needed to be on that side of the street, I would walk on the opposite side, because again, I'm passive aggressive. I couldn't, if they started talking to me, I was one of the people that would like hear them out with no intention of paying attention to anything they said. Or if they asked me to come to church, I would tell them, yeah, I would probably stop by with no intention of going. That's how I did it. So to avoid all that, cross the street. When I get away from, go back across the street. I don't care how big the street was, double lane traffic, I would cross the street to get away off. So when she started asking me to come to church, I told her, yeah, I'll come visit one day, with no intention of ever going. None at all. Not even the people like, yeah, a little bit, not even a little bit. I had no intention of ever going to the church. So what ended up happening was, she was a nagger. A filthy nagger. She kept on nagging the heck out of me. When you come, every time I talk to her, when you coming, when you going to church, when you coming, when, it was just like, to the point like, okay, I am going to visit your church. I'm going to come probably on a Tuesday. One, because I figured the service would be shorter. Two, I would figure there wouldn't be a lot of people there. And so I was just like going in, so I just went. And so I told her I'd come this Tuesday. When I went with my mind already made up. I had my plan figured out. I was going to tell her, I don't like this church. I don't want to come back. No, I don't like this church. And I already told her. Hadn't set foot in the church. Hadn't seen anything from the church. Didn't know anybody at the church. He could have preached the roof down. And I had no intention of setting foot back in there. None at all. So when I went in there, when I went in there was some guys I worked at. I saw some guys, and then I actually worked out with the gym man that worked out with at the gym. I saw, they basically worked out in a different area, but I worked out too, and we would always kick it at the gym. So I went up in front and sat with them. I was like, oh, cool. Well, somebody I know here, sat with them. I'm like, oh, all right. So what ended up happening was, I'm in my phone through the whole service. Again, I'm not paying a lick of attention to what anything this man has to say. He's, I'm because when I walked in at the first from the church they were different. You know, it was mostly young people. Now, when I had been going to church when I was young, it was Baptist. It was, you know, and it's like when the music was going, that's when people would get up and get to doing that dance and stuff. But see, he was in there and he was preaching, and they were standing up on the chairs and waving flags and blowing whistles, and I was like, these niggas is crazy. Well, pardon my French, but this is exactly what I said. I said, these niggas is crazy. What kind of crazy stuff did she bring me into? And that's what I said. But I was like, I'm just gonna get through it, because I told her I won't come. I don't want to come back, so I need to get through it this time. So, because I wasn't that type of guy. I was gonna tell her, hey, I'm out of here. I don't like this. I was just like, I'm gonna get through it. Have my own way of doing stuff. I was different. Don't judge me. But anyway, so what ended up happening was I was in my phone. I was sitting in the pew, wasn't paying attention to nothing this man was ministering about. I couldn't tell you to this day what a word he said, because I was in my phone. I was trying to figure out which girl house I was gonna go over after service, and you know, so when I looked up, because I was in my phone, I was so in it, even though it was back when, it was like, you know, my phone was pretty advanced, but back then I had a pretty nice phone, but it was like I was basically texting and scrolling through numbers, but I wasn't paying attention at all. And when I looked up, I was the only one sitting down. He had called it, everybody else was lined up, and I'm trying to figure, like, well, what did I miss? Like, what did he call people up for? I don't know if I should get up and get in line or keep sitting there. So I just kept sitting there because I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, this is something they normally do or what, or whatever. So the pastor of the church started laying hands, and then folks started dropping like sacks of potatoes. I went internally nuts. I didn't do it on the outside. I didn't act crazy. I was just like, I just started freaking out, like, oh my God, she brought me in this crazy stuff. He ain't here doing that fake TV stuff, putting his hands on folk and they pretending to fall out, because I just knew this was all staged and fake. These people just going along with the show. I was just like, this is nonsense. So this is a bunch of malarkey. You know, I didn't say malarkey, but I said something else. But you know, I'm not going to say that word. But that's what I did. So what happened was, she was in line. You know, the people going down like sacks of potatoes. And so she was in line. She told me to come up. So I'm like, I'm going to come up there. I'm going to come up there. But I wasn't going to get prayer. I wasn't expecting anything to happen. I was going up there with the sole purpose of proving that man a fraud. That was it. He was a shorter guy, you know, and me, I was in the gym lifting weights, you know, muscles and everything, and I'm like, he pushing them people down. I want to see this little dude push me down. I was like, I want to see this dude push me down. You know, I'm big bad Rob, like, I want to see it. Nobody pushing me down, not playing with God. All these folk in here fake God, but I ain't fake. I'm not going to play with you the way they in here playing this old Fallout game. Just in there talking mad trash in my head. So, here it is. I'm in line. You know, and people, they stepping up. They going down. They stepping up. They going down. And I'm just in my head, just like, just talking mad, just hyping myself up. Like, I ain't playing with you like them guys. I'm not going down. Like, these people here playing with you guys, but I'm not going to be playing with you like that, guys. You know. So anyway, by the time, when it got to the girl in front of me, you know, the girl who called me up, my friend, she went down, and when I walked up from him, arms folded, everything, like, just walked up with him like, what? I ain't say what, but that's the mentality I came, like, what? Let's do this. Let's do this, Chief. You against me. Let's do this. And he didn't even touch me. He didn't get a chance to touch me. All I felt was, it felt like someone took a bucket of water and tossed it in my face. No, there was no water involved, but that's the best way I can explain it. It felt like water was being dashed in my face. And when it happened, when I felt it, I began to bawl like a little girl. Bawl. I'm talking about. I'm boo-hooing. I hadn't cried in years. I didn't even believe in men crying. I mean, I thought men should be hard and tough, and that's the way I tried to be, you know. I was like, you know, you don't show all those emotions and stuff like that. My stepfather was a hard dude, you know, and I was like, he wasn't like that. I was like, you know, so that's what I saw. I was like, you be macho. So I'm in here and I'm just boo-hooing, and in my head, I'm freaking out. There's no like, oh, I need to get my life together. No. It was my body was having a different reaction than what my mind was having. So when it happened, I'm like, man, what are you doing? This is in my head, like, what are you doing, man? You're in front of all these people crying. Man, you better get yourself together. You here crying. Get it together, man. So here it is. I just started summoning up every ounce of strength I could, because it was like I was breaking down. It was just like a lot of suffering. It felt just like a lot of suffering was coming out of me, and I was just trying to stop it, because I was so embarrassed that I was in front of people crying, that my whole everything, Jesus wasn't there, nothing. You need to stop crying now. So that's what I did. I summoned all my strength, and I finally got the tears to stop coming, and I still didn't. I was just like, and I know my face had to be intense because I was holding it in. I was just, and then it came again, like whoosh. This time I bent over. I was crying so hard. Hands to toes touching, feet touching, crying hard, bawling. Crocodile tears. I'm trying, and I'm in my head, look, man, I don't know. And then the guy was just like, you gonna preach? And he took his hands, he hit my side. It was like I was being electrocuted. If I didn't see his hands for myself, I'd have swore he hit me with a stun gun, man. But it was like just, I hit that floor, couldn't move. Not an ounce of strength in me. But I'm perfectly in my right mind. I'm in there like, oh my God, what the heck just happened? I'm on this floor again. What my body is doing is totally contrary to what's going in my mind. Because right now I'm freaking out. I'm on that floor like, wouldn't God's name is just happening here? Just like, man, what the heck? It's like, somebody come get me up. And I'm in here just on the floor, and I'm panicking because I'm embarrassed that everybody else is up, and me, my dumb self, because I got in the line last, I'm the last one on the floor. So now I didn't even want to be humiliated for being crying, but now everybody else is up off the floor, and here I am on the floor. So I'm waiting on somebody to come rescue me, because I said, oh, they're helping people up off the floor. Okay, somebody gonna come get me, and I'm not gonna be on this floor being humiliated. And then when one of the armor bearers came to help me up, he stopped them. This Negro stopped him and said, don't touch him. God dealing with him. I'm like, man, I'm in my head. I'm like, oh, man, like, what the heck? Okay, what the heck just happened? It's like, I don't do nothing wrong. I'm like, you know, like, man, I'm in my head. And then it just started sounding like I started talking to myself. That's what it sounded like. It was like, you sitting up here lying to these women, manipulating them, and if you don't cut that stuff out, you're gonna go to hell. I'm just sitting here. Now, that's a part I missed, where one of my rules was that I said I would be honest with women. Up front, I would tell them, because again, I was passive aggressive. So it would one girl I dated, because one of the girls I had got a relationship with for 6 months, I wanted to dump her in 2 weeks. But when I went to break up with her, she freaked out on me, and so I dealt with her for another 6 months just to break it off slowly. Hey, don't judge me. I know it's just soft as pudding, whatever. Call it what you want. But that's what happened. So now when I dealt with women, I would I put this out there like, hey, I'm not trying to get married, I'm not trying to be in a relationship, to stop me from being from unwillingly ending up in a relationship before I really knew the girl. So I told them from the get, so they wouldn't have any, misconstruities or whatever, or misconstrue what was going on. But what ended up happening was women took it as a challenge. So women, I would tell myself, if you don't want to have sex, whatever, until we get to know each other, I'm like, fine with that. I'm fine with that. I'm like, whatever. But what I found out was that women who would say, I'm not having sex until I'm in a relationship, or for 3 months and all this stuff, until I'm getting to know a guy, I'm tired of these guys. When I would tell them this, it was almost like a challenge, and like I hardly had to do anything, and I was in bed with them, because it was like, I guess they thought they had a good one or whatever. I was, and from other people's eyesight, they would have considered me good, but God's eyesight is completely different. Okay, so that was my thing. And after a while, I knew it was working in my favor, telling women this. But I thought I was being honest. I'm being honest, so I'm not doing anything wrong. I told them I didn't want to be in a relationship. I told them I'm not trying to get married. It's their own fault. But when I was on the floor, the thing that I had pushed to the back of my mind, knowing I was manipulating people and considering myself good, God exposed me right there on the floor. He told me, he said, you're going to go to hell. And but it's the thing, I didn't know it was God talking to me at first, because it sounded like me lecturing me. That's what it sounded like in my head. It sounded like me. I was lecturing myself. And so afterwards, I realized, not afterwards, but during it was just like, I was sitting here puzzled, like, why am I going off on myself? And it was just like clarity came, like, that ain't you. That's God talking to you. And I was like, wait a minute, that's God talking to me. You just said I'm going to go to hell. I'm like, if there's a God, there's a devil. And there's a devil, there's a hell. The things where I was 50-50, that 50-50, like, I wasn't sure there was a God, 50-50 went from 100% real quick. Real quick. Because it was like, the reason a lot of people walking around and they deny God is because that grace hasn't hit them. But that moment of clarity, what they call an epiphany, is nothing more than God trying to set things. He trying to take the veil off so you'll see things for what they are. And so now there was a 50-50 chance of me going to heaven. And I thought there was, I thought my choice was heaven, or when I died, there'd be nothing, because I was a good person. But what God told me was, there was 100% chance of me going to hell if I didn't stop the nuts I was doing, which most people would have considered literally nothing, But he thought it's something. He knew, you're trying to play me. The Bible says God is not mocked. And he knew, like, you're trying to play me. You're not going to play me. It was like, you're going to go to hell. And from that point on, 100% change. I did a 180. Like, I had people, it was people I loved, friends, like people who loved old bro. Man, it was like everything on my mind was sex. Every joke I would tell, just always dirty jokes. And women, I used to keep women rolling, because I used to flip stuff around and make it seem like, they would say something completely innocent, and then I would flip it like what they said was something dirty, like they were propositioning me. It used to have women roll, and they was like, they would ask me, how do you do that? I didn't know how to do it. I was just able to do it, but I didn't know there was things working against me. But anyway, I had people tell me, say, I give you a year, you'll be back to how you were. And here, it's like, what is this, man? I'm like 16 years deep in this. I'm never going back. People call extreme or whatever. Man, I ain't going to hell. People consider me lame. Fine. I ain't going to hell. You might not want to hang out with me. Fine. I ain't going to hell. I don't care. I'm like, that's how I live, man. I ain't going to hell. And I'm doing my best, and my family ain't either. Because how you think it works ain't how it works. It's like, you ain't gonna play God. You're not. But that's just it. I just wanted to share my testimony. This was supposed to be a dry run, but It was longer than I thought, so I don't know. I might just leave y'all with this. Don't judge me. Bless y'all. Bye.